Michael Handel's Masters of War, Classical Strategic Thought, 3rd Revised and Expanded Edition. This is Speed, Numerical Superiority, and Victory. So first we have Clausewitz from On War. The decision can never be reached too soon to suit the winner, or delayed long enough to suit the loser. Then we have from Nelson, Only Numbers Can Annihilate. Then we have from Mao Zedong, Selected Military Writings. The aspiration to wipe out the enemy before breakfast is admirable, but it is a bad way to make concrete plans to do so. Since the ideal of winning without battle is seldom realized, the strategist must try to determine the most effective way to achieve victory when bloodshed has become inevitable. Once Sun Tzu turns his attention to strategy and practice, his views on the art of war do not differ from those of Clausewitz as much as previously thought. Sun Tzu is also searching for the quickest, most decisive victory, one which can be realized most directly through absolute numerical superiority in general or relative superiority at the decisive point of contact. It is, of course, the latter situation in which the qualities of superior generalship are brought to the fore. In order to win, despite numerical inferiority, the military genius, to use Clausewitz's terminology, must, for example, comprehend the potential contribution and limits of intelligence, the most effective way to use deception, and the fundamental distinctions between the offense and defense. Further, he must be aware of the advantages conferred by terrain and weapons technology, as well as those that cannot be gained solely through numerical superiority. So Sun Tzu, The Art of War, quote, victory is the main object in war. If this is long delayed, weapons are blunted and morale depressed. When troops attack cities, their strength will be exhausted. Thus, while we have heard of blundering swiftness in war, we have not yet seen a clever operation that was prolonged. Determination and speed are essential elements of a decisive victory. Also from Sun Tzu, The Art of War, Chang Yu, when you see the correct course, act. Do not wait for orders. Another place in The Art of War, therefore at first be shy as a maiden. When the enemy gives you an opening, be swift as a hare, and he will be unable to withstand you. Clausewitz too emphasized the importance of speed in war. From On War, quote, the second principle is the rapid use of our forces. Any unnecessary expenditure of time, every unnecessary detour, is a waste of strength and thus abhorrent to strategic thought. It is still more important to remember that almost the only advantage of the attack rests on its initial surprise. Speed and impetus are its strongest elements and are usually indispensable if we are to defeat the enemy. Thus, theory demands the shortest roads to the goal. End quote. Clearly, the purpose of the search for a swift result in a decisive battle is to avoid becoming mired in prolonged wars of attrition. The desire to bring a war to the quickest and most decisive victory is universal. As Mao Zedong reminds us, quote, quick decision is sought in campaigns and battles, and this is true at all times and in all countries. In a war as a whole, too, quick decision is sought at all times and in all countries, and a long drawn-out war is considered harmful. Unlike Sun Tzu, who scarcely discusses the bloody realities of war, let alone the importance of annihilating the enemy forces, Clausewitz goes directly to the point. So Clausewitz says, the immediate object of an attack is victory, and the destruction of the enemy is the key to his defeat. And victory alone is not everything, but it is not, after all, what really counts. But is it not, after all, what really counts? And we doubt whether Bonaparte, in any of his campaigns, ever took the field without the idea of crushing the enemy in the very first encounter. And yet again, Clausewitz from On War, we do claim, however, that the direct annihilation of the enemy's forces must always be the dominant consideration. And how is a quick, decisive victory to be achieved? As illustrated in the foregoing quotations, Clausewitz believes that overwhelming numerical superiority is one of the few ways in which it is remotely possible to win without battle. As Clausewitz explains, numerical superiority, all other things being equal, is certainly the simplest way to win decisively. So, back to Clausewitz on War. In tactics, as in strategy, superiority of numbers is the most common element in victory. And again, superiority of numbers admittedly is the most important factor in the outcome of an engagement. It thus follows that as many troops as possible should be brought into the engagement at the decisive point. This is the first principle strategy. The first rule, therefore, should be put the largest possible army into the field. This may sound a platitude, but in reality it is not. Still Clausewitz. And again, in another place on war, the best strategy is always to be very strong, first in general, and then at the decisive point. There is no higher and simpler law of strategy than that of keeping one's forces concentrated. And then, since in strategy, Clausewitz, this is Clausewitz no more. Since in strategy casualties do not increase with the size of the forces used, and may even be reduced, and since obviously greater force is more likely to lead to success, it naturally follows that we can never use too great a force, and further, that all available force must be used simultaneously. So again, concentration of force. And one more time from Clausewitz, another place on war. Quote, an impartial student of modern war must admit that superior numbers are becoming more decisive with each passing day. The principle of bringing the maximum possible strength to the decisive engagement must therefore rank rather higher than it did in the past. Unquote.